Hello, CompuMove friends. Welcome to another CompuMove training video. What we have for you today is a look at CompuMove's Consolidated Invoicing and Customer Account Statement functions. First, we'll combine several job records for a moving project onto a consolidated invoice. We'll look at the different levels of detail that we can generate there. We'll also look at how job records can be recalled when they are combined onto a consolidated invoice, either for lookup or to apply payment. Then we'll generate a statement for a customer account, for open item activity, and for all account activity, so that we can take a look at how we would provide that to our customer when they ask for it. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. Before we get started building a consolidated invoice for our move project, let's take a look at the job records that we want to be working with. I could go to the main lookup system and select this customer there and see the job records, but I'm going to go to Move Books and then I'm going to pick Customers, and I'm going to take a look at the customer account from this perspective. So I'll click into the Jones Corporation here. You can see I've got two records. Shows the reference date or the charge date of each shipment, shows the balance, the charges. There have been no payments. If you look in the upper right hand corner, it shows us their credit limit and their total balance due. That'll color code if they start to approach or exceed their credit limit. In this case, they're in good shape, so we don't have a problem there. So let's get this invoice together and get it sent out to them. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and I'm going to go to the report system, and I'm going to go to Consolidated Invoicing. Now you can consolidate any kind of job or different jobs together onto a single invoice. In this case, I'm going to do it by customer account. So I'm going to click on Job Select, and then I'm going to go to the customer account pull down, and I'm going to pick the Jones Corporation. And there are our two records there. I can select them individually, or I could use the Select All button. In this case, I'm happy to take those two. When I do that, you can see that the total of the job balance is reflected down here at the selected total. This is the amount that's going to be on this invoice. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to say take jobs for invoice, and it brings us back to the screen where we're building this invoice and able to see how it's going to come out. If you look at in the job or the print option, there's a couple choices here, whether we're doing job summary or whether we're doing bill item detail. We're going to take a look at both of those. So let's leave it on job summary. It's obviously got the account name and address information in there. And let's go ahead and display that invoice. And so what that does is obviously shows us who it's billing to, gives us some information about the invoice number that's being generated. And then here it lists our two shipments. And then down here it shows a balance due. So pretty straightforward. We could be satisfied with that and send it off. But let's decide that we want to show a higher level of detail, make this account happy. So I'm going to close that out. You can see because I've generated an invoice, it's asking me, do I like it? Do I want to accept it for the job histories? I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to switch to the bill item detail and then generate this invoice again. So I'll click on display, and now it expands the level of detail out and shows me not only the job total, the job title, and the reference, but the individual line items that are part of this invoice with a total that's due down at the bottom. So I'm going to pronounce myself satisfied with that. So I'll close it out. I can save it, print it, attach it to an email, and so on. But first I have to say yes to should this invoice be accepted for job histories. So now let's take a look at what we've done. I'm going to close out the consolidated customer account invoicing screen, and I'm going to go to Move Books, and then now I'm going to go to Invoices. And this will show me, depending on the options, I've got selected every open invoice on my system, and you can see here is the invoice that we've just generated, including its invoice number right there. So now if I were to go into the Move Books receipt posting system and enter that invoice number, it's going to find both of those jobs together. Even though it's two different job records, each with its own balance, they are now tied together by that common invoice number. So let's take a look at how that's going to work. This is not a lesson in how to post receipts in CompuMove. That's a subject for another video, so I'm just going to move through that quickly. I'm going to go to Move Books. I'm going to select Receipt Post. I'm going to say we have a new deposit in front of us here. Today's date will be fine. I'm going to enter the amount of the receipt. In this case, they paid what I was expecting. And so now we're going to go find those two jobs that are associated with that invoice number. So I'll go to the job lookup. I'll go to the invoice number field. I'll enter 2106-3. Both of those records will come back because they're shared on a consolidated invoice. I'll select them both. I'll say apply full pay, and now I'm going to have a balanced transaction. The amount of money that was received equals the amount that was receivable on those two individual job records. And so now I could post this transaction. So let's take a look now at what happens a little later in the life cycle of this experience when inevitably the account wants a statement of their activity with us. So I'm going to go to the report screen, and this time I'm going to pick customer account statements. When I do that, it brings up my customer list. You can see the Jones Corporation is there, and I've got a couple different options here. The first is an open item statement showing invoices that are outstanding right now. And then the second option is a statement of activity that shows how we got here. So since we did that project phase 1 and project phase 2, and we've posted a receipt, now there's been a project phase 3, and that has been entered. So let's take a look at what this looks like in that situation. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to do open item. So I'll display on that, and then that lists the one open invoice that we have now, which is for that phase 3, because the other invoices have been paid. And that's fine, but suppose now they want a statement of their activity going back further. So what happens if you're asking for activity, you can then change the date range. So let's go back to the beginning of the month, and then let's go through to the 25th. So now when I display that, I get what is basically a register, if you want to think of it that way, of their activity. So here's that project day from the 20th. Here it is from the 22nd, and again from the 23rd. And then there's their payment. So here's in the payment column what we posted on the 24th as payment. And then now we've got a new record that we've just added that results in the current balance that they owe us. So there's a variety of options in terms of how you present this, but this is really a statement, a chronology, as opposed to just a listing of open invoices. So that's a critical component here. If they just want to know what items are open, and you can say only those that are invoiced if you wish. If there have been multiple invoices issued for each job, then you could do first or last invoice, depending on how you want to see it aged. But if you say activity, then you've got some options there. Do we include a balance forward, or do we just want a total for the activity that's here? And do we want to include payments? So that, in combination with the use of the start date and the end date, allows you to get a variety of looks depending on what your shipper's looking for, so that you can give them what they need, so that their accounting department will be happy, and so that we'll get paid. So that's a look at our consolidated invoicing function, which allows you to combine multiple jobs for a given customer or even a group of customers onto an invoice, and also the customer account statements. Both of those have several options. Hopefully they're pretty self-explanatory, but if you get into that and you feel like you need some help or some explanation for how all those functions work, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always happy to help. And as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.